Hello and welcome to another episode of the MXGP podcast show, a very special one as it's finally time to preview the 2026 FIM Motocross World Championship. And this has been a long-awaited season. We already started to speculate about all that it would bring in the midst of the 2025 season with team changes, class changes, number changes to boot. Everyone has something different going on, so there is a hell of a lot to unpack in this episode. Of course, we're backed by DC Shoes and all of the quality products that they provide. Everyone knows DC Shoes. They don't need any introduction, nor does Adam Wheeler, who has been all around the world on many different missions, from Thailand to navigating geopolitical landscapes to electric bikes. It's been quite a week for our friend Adam Wheeler, hasn't it?
It has, Lewis. And I have to disagree with you that this is going to be a special podcast, because this is the podcast where we probably talk the most out of our asses all year in terms of predictions and thoughts of what's going to happen. And actually, I should have checked out our 2025 podcast before recording this just to see how kind of accurate or way off the money that we were this time last year. But at least it'll be fun. You know, we can talk about who we think will be doing what. And as for my week, yeah, it's been pretty crazy. Obviously been stuck. That's probably not the right word, but being in Thailand for the MotoGP when the venerable Donald Trump decided to launch his latest international PR campaign was not too useful. But luckily, I was able to blag one of the last seats on the MotoGP charter flight direct from Bangkok to Spain, and managed to sort of fly over most of the troubles when my original ticket was going through Qatar. So I do have some colleagues and friends who are still stuck in the Thai capital now, getting on for almost a week after the first round of MotoGP. So a grim time to be traveling and to try to be circumnavigating the globe. What a mess things are in. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I've had to deal with none of that. I was in Daytona, which is a short hour and a half drive from my home. So yeah, no issues on my behalf. But I will tell you this, Daytona, a speedway, man-made track, as is every Supercross.
Yes. I've been there. I've done the tour.
You know what I'm trying to get at. I found myself walking around Daytona all weekend in a state of nostalgia for, conveniently, it all ties together, the Grand Prix of Qatar. Just... you don't realise how good it is. You don't know what you've got until it's gone, as the old song goes. And as we were walking 20 minutes from the press box back to the pits, I was just telling everyone, in Qatar, we had drivers and we had BMWs waiting for us. And, in Qatar, I was like American Pie. That one time a band camp was me with Qatar tails. And
wait, what? Drivers?
Yeah, do you not remember that?
You got in the car and drove back to the pits?
No, of course not, Adam. Drive myself? What do you take me for? A common man? They had
shuttles.
No, more than shuttles. What do you take me for? A common man? They had drivers, I think BMWs, but a class of cars similar to BMWs, and there were a couple of them in circulation that were going from the press room to the track.
Yeah, shuttle.
It was a car.
You got in the shuttle.
It's not a shuttle when it's
disgraceful, Lewis. It was like an 8-minute walk, and you couldn't even bother to do that. I didn't even know there was a shuttle. I never got in one.
It's not a shuttle when it's a classy car with lights and everything. I did it once just because I wanted to experience it.
Oh, right, okay.
I was a tourist.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about speedways in MXGP, there's a few to pick, right? I mean, we could think about Donington Park, Mallory Park, Charlotte. No. That wasn't, that's kind of an off-road basin, wasn't it? It wasn't really like a...
It's technically, it's called Charlotte Motor Speedway, so it'll stand up in court. Okay.
Well, we've had Imola. What was the name of the place? Franciacorta? That had the Motocross and Nations. There's been a few tracks that they've tried to Zolder is another one. I'm sure I can probably think of more, but Qatar was probably one of the most ambitious. Sadly, no longer there. And it looks like the MotoGP round, for obvious reasons, is in the balance. So I won't be able to go back and take that picture of the car park, Lewis, that now stands over the MXGP track.
Well, first of all, the car park on the tarmac would never stand in our friend Dan's way. We know that. So they can try and tarmac over the MXGP track, but we'll just truck dirt in. They know that we're capable of this. And some could argue that it's very insensitive and immature almost, that I'm longing for a visit to Qatar in the current landscape. But I don't care. What a place. What a GP. What an experience. What a core memory. And of course, no Qatar in 2026 MXGP, but we do have 19 rounds. How many, road race venues do we have? Does Darwin count? Because Darwin has some sort of oval...
Yeah, I think it is. It's like a motor speedway facility, isn't
but
it?
not on the same grandeur as Charlotte or Imola. It's kind of a pokier version, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not like a definitive raceway setting, I guess you could say. But Australia's been a little bit polemic of late in sort of road racing circles because Phillip Island is one of the best tracks in the world, but probably not the most appropriate anymore. And then MotoGP is switching to more of a city centre vibe in Adelaide from 2027. And then the USGP is something that also needs to be improved in that series because the Circuit of the Americas is the only homologated track for MotoGP in the US. But as we know, Luis, when it comes to motocross, there's many more kind of options. And Bariloche this weekend will be hosting. What is it? Is it the sixth time or something that Argentina is opening the MXGP calendar? And it'll be the first time that this facility is going to be having that honour.
Yeah, and it looks very par for the course with an MXGP man-made track, similar to Shanghai a little bit last year, I think.
Yeah.
Is there elevation, so that adds another element. I think Cordoba was a little grander than what Bariloche will be, because Cordoba has had significant elevation and whatnot. And whilst Bariloche has a little bit, I think, it's not to the same degree.
Yeah, I wonder how it will look finished, but Cordoba it's not going to win any awards for aesthetics and the visual side, is it? It looked like a big sort of sandpit.
But critically, it may have won an award, but I think a lot of the MXGP paddock were petitioning for it to win Track of the Year. It was definitely loved by everyone. So there is that. And you could argue as long as you've got that fundamental, what more do you need? Of course, we're not back in Cordoba. That was one and done because the promoter lost a lot of money because they didn't do a very good job of putting up fences. And therefore, the packed crowd, a majority of them, snuck in for free. And that is the tale of why Cordoba no longer exists, at least the version that I got.
Well, by the look of Bariloche, that shouldn't be too much of a problem because it seems like a bit of an industrial park setting. But then Bariloche is, I was reading, Lewis, I don't know if you caught it, but the MXGP press release previewing the season and the Argentine Grand Prix was actually pretty good. I mean, it is kind of... it's a tome. I mean, it's so long, but the information inside it is great. So big thumbs up to In Front Motor Racing for that kind of detail and that kind of info they packed in there. But according to that, Bariloche is like the third biggest or the third most visited city in Argentina, and famous for its chocolate. And I remember that because we used to stop off there because Bariloche was the airport we used to get to Nelkin. So that means I think they've got a big catchment of people, which, as long as the structure of the circuit is properly in place, then there is potential there for this one to have a bit more longevity.
Yeah, I mean, copy and paste the crowd and the fanfare that was around Villa La Angostura. As you mentioned, we used Bariloche Airport to get to Villa La Angostura. That was our final port of call. So you're, an hour and a half away from the first Argentine venue? So
yeah.
I would think that
kilometers.
95% of those fans, if not all of them, would make the trip out to Bariloche, presuming it's well publicised, which is a little bit of on the whole, a little bit of a gripe I have. And I think that I'll drag you into this as well, need to take some blame for this. But what a brilliant MXGP season we have ahead of us, with Herlings on a new team, Gajser on a new team, Vialle stepping back into the series on a new team in a new class, Adamo stepping up, De Wolf stepping up, Febvre, I didn't even mention the defending champ, let alone Coenen. And yet, I feel like online fanfare and general hype is insignificant at this point. Certainly less so than I imagined. And again, I'll take a portion of the blame because I'm in a position where I can generate hype and excitement and, stoke the flames a little bit. But I don't know, I expected there to be much more about MXGP at this point, just from general fanfare. Do you feel the same?
Only in terms of the fact that there's other series going on. I did actually I was watching some of Daytona while in the press room at the MotoGP in Thailand. And once you kind of got over the Eli Tomac charge to the front, it didn't feel there was that much else going on. There's not that much more to get excited about with respect to the riders that are in the field. It feels a little bit hollow. And I guess Supercross is at that point now where you have riders dealing with injury and the attrition's kicking in. MotoGP starting this weekend, Formula One is getting underway, with their new big era for technical rules and changes to the cars. So it does feel like a little bit like MXGP has got lost in that. And also, I think just the preseason being so hit by weather conditions. When races did go ahead, the races I saw online, they were just crappy, rainy, muddy. It feels like MXGP has been in quite a long slumber. So this will be good to sort of, get that familiar feeling of like, that number, that bike, that rider, the difference, and get it all moving again this weekend.
And that's exactly what we're here to do. It's Thursday, a little later than we would have liked to get this preview out, but this is going to be your perfect pre-season hype, excitement, whatever else you want to call it. I don't know. The aim is for the end of go on.
Can I just mention one other minor gripe, Lewis?
Sure.
Since you kind of brought it up. Why do promoters not stick up signs around towns and on roads and stuff saying, hey, we've got a round of a world championship happening here this weekend? This is something I think is particularly weak in the UK. If you just put signs out, I don't know how much it costs to do. Maybe it's a cost thing or an approval thing. No, in the UK, it probably is some kind of bizarre government approval thing. But just stick signs everywhere. Tape them to trees. I don't know. Advertise the fact that MXGP is in town. More often than not, you might get people driving by thinking, oh, motocross, MXGP, World Championship Racing, what's that? Maybe we can go and check it out, because it's not one of these spectacles that requires a second mortgage to go and watch it. If everyone has their own respective value on a euro or a dollar or a pound. But, it's not as if you're going to see, say, a concert by a leading artist, or you're going to see a cup final of another sport. I think it's actually pretty reasonable to get to see an MXGP. So publicise the bloody thing.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that maybe is outdated now and you need to be doing TikTok trends and whatever else as a better way to communicate an event being in an area. Yeah, why not both? Or at least one. Let's start with low expectations, which is perhaps a good way for the listeners to enter this podcast. So we have a handful of categories for each class that we'll filter in at different points. But let's start with this, with MXGP. Is it fair to say that Febvre, Coenen, Herlings and Gajser are the big four? Are they the prominent four, the leading four, and everyone else falls in their wake as far as preseason hierarchy goes? Or do you want to pick up one of the rookies and immediately drop them in that before a wheel was turned?
I would, maybe to match what Coenen did last year is tough, but I would put Kai de Wolf up there. And I would lodge Maxime Renaux next to him. I think you have to consider him, if not part of the big four, then very close. Maybe you disagree with that, but yeah, I think you have to do it.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, that's a poignant topic because there's been a lot of hoo-ha online about Kai de Wolf's supposed thumb injury that he sustained at a French international 12 days ago now. And he did skip l'Europe as a result, so clearly there's something there. But as far as I have made out in talking to people close to de Wolf, who everyone can imagine who I spoke to, there was no surgery. So the rumours or the reports of a surgery were incorrect. That's at least the version that I got. Now, do I believe that there is some sort of ailment there? Absolutely. Would I be surprised if he gives it a go in Argentina and ultimately DNFs both motos? No. But it's certainly not as dire as everyone's making it out to be. However, In contrast, I do expect a slower start. However, many layers to this. Once DeWolf is healthy, whether that's round 1 or round 5, I do agree with you that he is a significant threat to the establishment.
Yeah, you might not see much perhaps until you get to the sand, and then his confidence will kick in. Maybe a Riola, I think that's round 4 or 5. Like you say, Lewis, the state of the thumb injury is something that we're going to have to guess at for quite a while. And if anything, you could reference Lucas Coenen's wrist injury, which he had multiple fractures on his wrists going into the first GP last year. Appeared at Cordoba with wrist braces, and he took a decent 6th position, I think, overall, which tended to hint that it wasn't as bad as we were all expecting.
Yeah, actually, very good point. We are almost playing the exact same game with DeWolf as we did play with Coenen, and Coenen made us all look silly with his immediate potential. So perhaps that is a glimmer of hope with DeWolf. So sorting out that lead group, do you have any preference amongst Febvre, Coenen, Herlings, Gajser, DeWolf and Renaux?
Well, you sent something through on WhatsApp to me saying, can you list your top 5 for Argentina? And I quickly did it, and then I thought, oh shit, no, I've left him out. And then I thought, oh shit, I've left him out as well. So then I had to rethink it and rejig it a little bit, and I'm not completely comfortable with that top 5. But then we have our topics, and the first one was the title pick. So I don't know what kind of list or criteria you want to talk about.
Well, not to peek behind the curtain too much, but the top 5 was a social media gimmick that I'm hoping to run before every round, because realising there's not enough excitement, I figured if you and I could post our top 5 for each Grand Prix on the Thursday before, say, then A, it would get some discussion going, B, it would promote the podcast, and C, just helps the ecosystem somewhat. But let's start with title favourite here. Again, of that top 4, who do you prefer? Who scratches an itch for you?
This again was very difficult to judge, but going on past performances and the power of motivation and invigoration and whatever else, resetting, I'm going to say Tim Gajser.
See, that's the beauty of 2026 MXGP, because I am trying to decide between 2 riders, and neither of them are Tim Gajser.
Can you please put your friend hat thing to the side for the moment and just give it because there's these 2 Lewis Phillips that exists. One is the very excitable version that just goes mad, which we all love.
Do you feel like the excitable version has died a little bit? I feel like that's been a while.
No, it's still there. But then there's the other one who busts out these statistics on Twitter, which are fantastic, which no one ever really would think of, and usually back up any kind of crazy point that you have. So I'm appealing now to that side of Lewis Phillips, not to sort of pander to the Jeffrey Herlings fandom, the guy that has maybe analysed some of the past finishes and is about to make a reasoned argument.
Well, Adam, you've set me up perfectly there, because the reason why I'm struggling is because both of those worlds have collided. Because last night I was updating some of my MXGP spreadsheets and whatnot, so I can do the statistics that you love, I think. Kinda.
Well,
love to hate.
Only the worthwhile ones, not the pointless ones.
The fact that Febvre has twice as many MXGP titles as he does MX2 race wins is insane.
But see, that's a prime example of a useless stat.
Really?
I mean, yeah. I mean, he was... Why are you harking back to MX2 when he hasn't been racing there for 11 years?
Just when you think about it, like if you're just scrolling Twitter and you randomly come across that, it's one of those things that makes you go, yeah, okay, maybe I knew that. But you know what? When you see it laid out in front of you, that is crazy, isn't it? Twice as many Okay.
He broke his leg and missed half the season, and then he ran up to the age limit ceiling by 1 day.
He did 44 starts in MX2, so he had apt opportunity to win
he was
more
also
than
a
once.
late starter, and I think if he hadn't missed out by that 24-hour period of his birthday being on December the 31st, then for 2015 he would have stayed in MX2, he probably would have won a shitload more races.
No, see, I would argue...
Well, we knew with Jeffrey Herlings, and he would have taken the title.
I would argue the complete opposite, and I think we've discussed this. If Febvre had been born a day later and raced MX2 in 2015, I wouldn't be surprised if he was retired now, because I think that he got somewhat lucky. You can attest to the fact he got somewhat lucky to land a factory ride of some sort for that 2015 season. And no one saw him becoming what he was going to become. If he'd stayed in MX2, perhaps he gets injured again. The way the contract landscape is, maybe he never gets that opportunity, and then we never see the Febvre that we have seen on a 450. That's my take on Febvre.
Okay, but that's just a sliding doors argument, because every rider has those phases in his career, whether he could have gone left or right, and then what would have happened. I mean, I do know that Febvre at the end of 2014, or a little bit before in the summer of 2014, had different options for joining the Premier class, the move that he was forced to do. His preferred option was to ride a 350 for the Austrian group, because he was a Husqvarna rider then at the time. He could have been a KTM rider or stayed a Husky rider. He was fortuitous, perhaps, that in Yamaha were running one bike with only Jeremy Van Horbig in 2014 and were able to change their remit to enter two 450s for 2015. And, he was up against a couple of other riders. I know Sean Simpson was one of the Yamaha options to take that factory bike for 2015. So, Febvre was able to slide into the right team at the right time with the right bike, still broke his arm in pre-season, had a lot of catch-up work to do. But I saw that, Lewis, and I thought, okay, you've unearthed an interesting fact that Febvre wasn't actually that strong. But towards the end of 2014, which was his last year in MX2, he was pretty strong, and that's his streak of results in that period. I think up until I have memories of him racing in Spain. Did he win there? Anyway, he rose to third in the championship, so he was definitely on the ascendancy.
Oh well, Adam. Look at Lewis and his silly little spreadsheet. In fact, in that 2014 season, his GP win was his only podium in the second half of the season.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh.
Who was he racing against in 2014 then? That would have been the year of
Tixier and
Jordi Tixier.
Yeah. Tixier, Herlings, and who else would have been?
It was a bit early for Sewer, I think.
Yeah.
Jonass, perhaps.
Yeah, a bit early for... no, Jonass would have been later than that. Who would have been Herlings, Tixier? Who would have been like on a Yamaha at that point? I guess Kimia was a bit insignificant.
Paulin?
No, he was already MXGP.
No, in MXGP.
Huh.
Charlier.
Yeah, that probably is that sort of era. So it kind of supports my point. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Yes, that would have been one. Back to the topic at hand. I'm tied between two people for the title, and we're going to blend all Lewis's together. My many personalities have come together to voice this argument. My head wants to say Lucas Coenen, because I think we all saw the potential last year. We all saw what he's capable of. That doesn't need to be explained. However, I am still skeptical about his ability to make it through a season without some awful races like Sweden and China. I don't know. And I don't know why I don't know, because I feel like the argument for Lucas Coenen is fairly concrete at this point in time. We've got enough data to tell us exactly what he can offer, and what he can offer is great.
And also, those races weren't such a disaster.
Okay.
Come on, the Chinese GP, you could argue, lost him the World Championship, but it still wasn't that bad. It's only by virtue of the fact that it was him and Febvre going for it, that there was no one else really to chime in and help out.
No, that was... Wait, hold on. He got 12th overall in China. That's a disaster.
Yes, okay. It wasn't... Right, 12th overall.
I'm really enjoying my... Right. This is such a... The spreadsheet is being vindicated right before our very eyes. It's brilliant. So that's my Coenen argument.
But Lewis, it wasn't like he was 12th one week and then winning the next, and then 10th next one week and then being third next. He was on the podium for like 14 consecutive races or something.
Yeah, so, okay. So he had 10 consecutive podiums, and not only were they podiums, they were top two finishes, which is brilliant.
There you go.
However, in the final 5 Grand Prix, he went 8-2, 2, 12, 1. And maybe it's recency bias somewhat, or whatever you want to call it, but I don't know that. I think it's impossible to ignore that. Or perhaps you can ignore it and choose to dismiss it, but I think it has to be in consideration. Now,
sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's incredible that 12th place is a bad result out of 20 GPs in your rookie year. I expect much more sort of what's feast and famine.
it was in China. I could have got 12th place in China. That was a joke for those at home who are challenged in that respect. So then Coenen is my one with my head, and my heart, to the surprise of no one.
Here we go. Ben Watson's not doing the whole championship.
No, and Herlings has won many a championship without doing every round, Adam. My heart says Herlings, and here is why. Because, again, when I was just updating my spreadsheets, and there were a few things that I never filled out from the end of last season, I somewhat forgot that in the final 5 rounds again of 2025, Herlings went 2-1-1, 2-1-1-1-2. I forgot just how dominant he was to close, and I don't know why. And even now, those numbers, although I see and appreciate those numbers, my mind is kind of racing back to figure out how he won in such a fashion. Of course, you could argue those are irrelevant. A different bike now, completely different situation. However, this is the landscape of the Honda Switch, I believe. Starts are going to be better. Hard pack, yes. They can't get much worse. Starts are going to be better. This has all come from my research. Starts are going to be better. Hard pack is going to be significantly better. Sand, maybe a touch worse, but it's Herlings, so he can afford to lose a second a lap. Now, again, all of that could be deemed irrelevant because can he stay healthy? And ultimately, the bike and the team change isn't going to fix that. And I do think it will be a slower start. In doing my top 5 predictions for Argentina, I don't have Herlings on the podium. I have him 4th because I do believe that it will be a bit of a building process, which is kind of what Herlings has done for a little while now, admittedly, injury forced. But he hasn't started a season with a win since 2020. So
I don't even have him in the top 5 for Argentina. I think it's going to be, you know, that stupid thing you say, slowly monkey something.
Slowly catchy monkey.
Yeah, that's it. I think he's going to take his time to build in, and he'll be mad if he tries to rush it. I understand there's probably a bit of pressure. There's a bit of a price tag. There's lots of questions, maybe more expectation on Jeffrey than he's experienced in the last 10 years of his career. And there will be also a lot of comments as well, I'm sure, if he goes 1, 2, 3 races without taking a moto win or being on the podium or whatever. But I think he does have to remember bigger picture. There's so many, like you called it earlier, layers to this transfer. It's not just a case of Herlings getting used to a new bike and getting a win. There's much more to it, and there's much more psychology involved. So it's going to be a big test for him.
To quote, I believe, William Shakespeare, will Herlings indeed catch the monkey in the end?
Wow. As someone who studied Shakespeare quite a bit, this has made me emotional hearing that quote again. I think to use another Shakespeareanism, Jeffrey's going to have to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
It's kind of one-up me there a little bit. But you say slowly catchy monkey. Does he catch the monkey? Or does
we're getting ahead of ourselves in our categories, aren't we?
No, we're still fishing. Well, actually, I guess you picked Gajser as a title favourite, so in your mind, he's not catching the monkey. But all of this is disrespectful because apart from talking passionately about his 2014 season, we've completely passed over the reigning champion, and I want to ask you why. Why have we done that?
Yeah, good question. I just think
because he, in the pro column, he's on the same team, he's on the same bike. That only changes his number. Ultimately, if there's ever a situation where Febvre should be favoured to defend, it is this one, arguably.
And as far as we know, he's fit. I don't know. I maybe it's just to do with energy and perspective, Lewis. And also, maybe I'm catching you a little unawares here because we didn't plan this, but do you have any kind of record of opening race winners? Because we've had some unexpected ones over the years, like you kind of get at Anaheim one. The Josh Grant, Justin Barcia, those kind of names coming up. In MXGP, we've had Ruben Fernandez winning the Argentine Grand Prix. We've had Maxime Renaux winning it last year and then having a disastrous season. And I think what you'll find is that Gajser may be one of the best riders when it comes to not only the first race, but also winning in Argentina. I think he's got a couple at Nelkian.
Yeah, he has the most Argentine victories of anyone.
Yeah. And it goes against. I actually slotted him into P2 for my list of the top five for this weekend. I put Coenen first, but I just think that Gajser has. He might have a little bit of just what he needs, and if there's one rider in the whole pack that knows how to sort of do that Cairoli-esque thing of building a championship campaign all the way through the year, then it's the Slovenian.
But once again, you've strapped on your DC shoes there, and you've made a Febvre conversation about Gajser. Why? What is it about Gajser? What is it about Febvre that we're not even giving him his fair shout in this conversation?
Well, we've only just started the conversation. I mean, we haven't. Are you going to say the same thing about Vialle? Or
No,
I don't know.
Once again, you've strapped on your DC shoes and you've kicked him into the category of graduates. Next, we're gonna be down to talking about Kevin Broomman,
Adamo.
and you're gonna say, well, there's also Febvre to discuss.
Well, because you ask a good question and I don't have an answer for it.
Well,
Why are we not making a whole podcast about Romain Febvre?
Realistically, both of his titles have come without Gajser and Herlings in the field. That is
there
why.
we go. That is the kind of Lewis Phillips scientific analysed answer. So why are you being silly asking me the question when you have the answer?
Well then, Adam, feel free to log off and I'll just one-man monologue this for the rest of the hour. That, I think, looms in everyone's mind and is perhaps given more credence than it deserves, because ultimately you have to be in it to win it. And the fact that Febvre was one of the big four, if you want to call it that, the fact that he was one of two to survive the entire season is actually another pro in the column that I was listing previously.
And it took him 10 years to do it.
I think that probably scares people off as well, because the 10-year drought doesn't suggest that this is a man that can win at any given opportunity.
Or two in a row.
Or that. This suggests a man who can win in the right circumstances. And of course, you would never bet on the right circumstances arising because that's a fairly slim window. Fair to say.
But that also taps into the existential of point of this podcast, Lewis, because it's fantastic fun to be saying, hey, who could do what and who do you fancy for this and whatever else. But then motocross is just so frustratingly unpredictable that, you could look at Tim Gajser. I mean, he was in prime championship position last year, hits a man-made bump in Switzerland, and the season's over. Same thing for Febvre. Febvre could go 1-1 in Argentina, look awesome. We look a bit silly by saying, well, he hasn't won. He's only won 2 titles in 10 years. Gets halfway through the season and wipes himself out like he did in his title defense in 2016 when he had a couple of concussions. So yeah, it's all a bit moot.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to this moot podcast. We'll try and unmoot it. Perhaps you've already mooted it in your radios and whatever else.
That's moot as in, I don't know, questioning the worth of something rather than taking the audio off.
To be clear, I am aware of that, and I was just trying to do a play on words.
Right,
I do know of someone. I did have a conversation with someone recently where they said it was a moo point, and I was like, oh. Okay, I guess
they forgot the T.
Yes, I was like, oh, the cows must be going crazy.
How are you not laughing?
I'm actually quite good at trying to hold stuff in. So that's that.
So Romain Febvre.
I think so. Let's end the big four conversation with this. Fair to say then, Herlings, Coenen, Gajser, Febvre, whatever order, as far as a power ranking goes, you have Febvre as the fourth guy in that bunch.
No.
Okay.
Power ranking for the top four. I would. So you're asking for power ranking or where I think they'll
No, I
finish?
think just general, like, pre-season, how you are feeling about each guy, you know? I don't know how you really
Right.
constitute a power ranking, but
If we're taking the top four and we're ranking them from top to bottom, I'd say Gajser, Coenen, Febvre, Herlings.
wow. And now we're going to head into some sort of Shakespearean tragedy after that. Think of the investment that Honda HRC have made, and you're just throwing it to the side.
Well,
Imagine
I
how
mean, if
they're
we
going to
actually
feel.
no, if we actually worked our way through the categories, then we would have ways to explain our picks.
Well, that is where we're going next. I just wanted to end the big four because that is fairly significant. There are so many riders to get to, and hopefully these categories will provide us with some structure. So let's go with... Well, actually, I guess we should do this actually to end the big four. Most wins across the season? Is that more clear-cut for you?
Coenen.
It's again between Coenen and Herlings to me.
Lewis Herlings is not going to be winning on a Honda. I think Coenen's going to rack up 3 or 4 wins.
I've just found out a pull quote for YouTube.
No, let me finish. He's not going to be winning on a Honda straight off. Give him some time. I mean, he could end up going serial by the end of the year, but I just don't think we can have high expectations of him yet.
But again, all relatively fair points, except I'm looking at the numbers, and just last year, Herlings didn't win until the second half, and he was 1 win shy of being the winningest rider in the season. So I'm whilst there is probably a bit of fandom, and you could call it bias, I'm looking at the numbers, and if Herlings he's starting the season healthy, which that alone should give him a leg up to 4 more GP wins, and that's half the season. Like, if there's any form comparable to the second half of last year, which again there will be because he's healthy, then what? I don't know how you can bet against him, and that's been me with Herlings his entire career.
Yeah, but the problem with the metrics on Herlings, they go out the window because he has that delightful story of being 16 years of one brand, one team, and essentially 2 different motorcycles. So throwing the whole thing out, he's the ultimate skewer of data.
I will back that on in the sense that it does mean that there's a window here where who's to say that this won't go Prado and Kawasaki-esque? You can't say that isn't true. But equally, your title pick, Tim Gajser, you can't say that won't happen with him either, because it's exactly the same
Yep.
narrative. Although maybe slightly different because Japanese to Japanese is arguably
There we go. Yes. And as we know, Yamaha is slightly, reborn, I would say, in terms of their motivation and their organization. I'm not sort of decrying Honda. I think HRC is probably one of the best resourced, best supported teams in the MXGP paddock these days. But I just think the combination there is a little bit more set to go.
MXGP dark horse. And there's many a horse to pick from.
I had Kaida Wolf down for this, but I'm also sharing it with Tom Vialle.
What do you expect from both? Do you think that either one actually deserves the title of dark horse? Are they not a little more in the light?
No, but yeah, I think they deserve the title of dark horse because there's absolutely no precedent in terms of their careers for this. They're both new on the 450s, new to the category, new to this level of opposition. I expect from them podium finishes, surprise moto wins, perhaps. I would, and then probably like a very tasty rookie of the year duel.
Yeah, I think that's going to dominate conversations. My dark horse, and again, I'm picking between 2 here, but we also have a category of biggest surprise, which I think somewhat they scratch each other's backs because you can have a surprise turn into a dark horse. But as far as dark horse, I'm between Maxime Renaux and Ruben Fernandez. I'll give you my reasons.
Are they both too established to be dark horse?
Well,
now go on.
No, it depends, doesn't it? Because I'm not talking dark horse for the title. I'm just talking someone who we've maybe forgotten about or we're not giving enough attention to, and they're going to turn out to be a consistent player.
Romain Febvre then?
No, he isn't even in this category. He's even further down the line. Renaux, the stats obviously don't exactly read positively. His win in Argentina last year was his only podium of the entire season. He's had 1 podium in 2 years, 4 podiums in 3 years. It's not good
Injured
reading.
for 2 years.
Yes, fair, but he did still race significant numbers. And if you look at Herlings, there's precedent there for being injured and still racking up wins. But I'm trying to be positive about Renaux here. And I think that the changes at Yamaha are going to play well. I think that being the number 2 guy on the team will actually favour him in some roundabout way. I think it'll bring the best out of him. Maybe take some of the spotlight off, which will in turn take some of the pressure off, which will in turn take some of the jeopardy off. So Maxime Renaux I have for 2 GP wins, let's say, and a handful of podiums, 8+, and that would constitute a dark horse in my mind. And similarly, Ruben Fernandez, I don't know if I have him winning a GP, but I do think that in this very stacked field where you have 15 riders who belong around the top 7, let's say, I think Fernandez will consistently play around the top 5 more than some of his peers, and therefore there will be a lot of chatter of, hey, Fernandez is actually doing pretty well, isn't he? And I don't know how that looks as far as podiums and wins. Not to discredit him, just because I do believe that it's going to be extremely hard to get a trophy at any point in 26. I think that's clear. Look at poor Febvre and how he's played in this conversation. But those would be my 2 dark horses. Any objections from the jury?
Look how the leopard changes his spots now. You've been such a Fernandez doubter for years and years and years, and now here you are talking him up.
This is the issue with the sport, Adam. It was never personal, and I stand by it in previous seasons. But now, being the analytical guy that you've come to love, I looked at it all and I was like, you know what? This is going to play well for him. Now, admittedly, you could argue against that by saying that, let's see here. Last year, only 3 podiums. He was actually, my prediction flies in the face quite aggressively because last year he was wildly inconsistent. If I take a period from the second half, he went 4, 13, 4, 13, 6, 11. And that's kind of what I'm saying he won't do. Because I guess in my mind, my dark horse pick is him going 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 5, that sort of season.
The best thing for Ruben is that he can fly a little bit under the radar. You know, he has 2 other riders there significantly paid to do the heavy lifting in terms of results. The downside is that he could just be the guinea pig in the team. You know, if HRC want to keep throwing some different parts, or I know they're racing the prototype. He was pushed onto the prototype during the mid part of 2025. You know, if he doesn't sort of get...
That did lend itself to the inconsistent results that I just mentioned. In fairness, that's important.
It was from Lommel. I think it was from Lommel. He, you know, so kind of like mid-season.
Yeah. So that is
where
important
he was on
context
the prototype.
with the results I just listed.
Also, you know, with Gajser being injured, he was the only one really carrying the team as well. I don't think that sits too easily with him. So the fact that he can be like I don't want to say the third wheel, but he is the third rider, means I think you're right, Lois, he'll have space and a little bit of room to operate. I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up with a GP win here or there.
I think a GP win is a little bit far just because the field is so deep. But I like your optimism. That's good to see after you famously said, I believe, Jeffrey Herlings isn't going to win on a Honda, I believe the exact quote was.
Well, cut off mid-sentence. Who's your surprise for 2026 then?
Because that was Dark Horse we just did. See, the 2 blend together a little bit. My surprise, and I'm proud of this, he's not going to be mentioned in any previews. Everyone forgets he exists, and that's why...
You already said Kevin Bruman.
No, he's going to be my win-it-all rider. We've got a personality of the year category at the end I didn't tell you about. He's not been mentioned. Everyone forgets he exists, and for that reason he is a perfect surprise because no one will expect his name to come out of my mouth. Mattia Guadagnini.
Oh.
Yep. I think for the Ducati, Desmo 450 last year was more troublesome than any of us realise. I think he was extremely happy to get off that bike. May or may not have had a conversation. And I think he has got a new perspective being back on a KTM, which he knows and is familiar with. I think he knows it's a last chance saloon. And again, it's hard to put a pin on what this looks like results-wise. And he was amazing at Argentina last year. But I do think he is going to be the surprise of 2026. And I do have a B pick, but I'll let you go first in case my B pick happens to be yours.
I would encourage fans to look out for Isaac Gifting. If the Swede can keep fit, then I think he showed last year that he's a good starter and he's definitely got the sort of feisty character to mix it up with the factory boys.
Missing round one with a dislocated shoulder.
Oh, really? Is it dislocated?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know it was a shoulder injury. But watch out for him during the season. Lucky this is not the Argentine GP preview, more of a 2026 preview. But I would say Andrea Adamo. He's going to be one of those rookies again that I think people won't necessarily be watching. But, I think he's going to be a guy that suits a bigger bike. And, I think he's really going to turn some heads.
Yes, I love that pick. I almost put him as my surprise and my dark horse. I couldn't really find where to put him, but I do think he is going to be both a dark horse and a surprise across the season. He hasn't got the same pedigree as Vialle and De Wolf or even Coenen. I think they are the shinier toys in the pack. But
all ex-world champions.
Yeah, but come on. Let's call a spade a spade. As far as notoriety, De Wolf, Vialle, and Coenen before them all carry a little more spice and a little more public.
They have better results, better, perhaps a slightly more glittering CV. But you can't forget that Andrea won one title, and also he has that kind of. I don't know if he's listening to this; he probably won't appreciate it, but he has a sort of Steve Ramon-esque way to ride the bike and a way to approach a race. I would say probably a bit more aggression, but I think he just has a wildly effective racing demeanor.
Yeah, I think if you look at it as from a matchup point of view, I could see Adamo outscoring Vialle, which I think would constitute a success. Because I think that if you want to do the big four for the rookies, I think that everyone has Adamo on the tail of that pack, when I don't think that's reality. And I think that's actually quite founded in results, because look at how he's performed through the pre-season races. Some issues that held him back in the results column, but everyone was talking about how capable he appeared to be on a 450. And to your Steve Ramon comparison, I think that his riding style, his method will actually play better on a 450 than it will in the erratic 250 class. So I actually do have Adamo. Again, I've said it enough, but I don't know what that looks like results-wise, but Adamo will definitely outkick his coverage and personal perceptions.
Just one question came to mind. Your point about Guadagnini. I have a question for you. Which brand does better? Triumph in the 450s, Ducati, or Fantic?
Well, Triumph just has Ben Watson, so you really set them up to fail.
No, not at all. I mean, Ben might come in and post top 6 speed
you think?
Compared to, say, like the Fantics or the Ducatis.
Yeah, but it's one rider against a trio and the other, trio at Ducati.
I was just trying to extend the option range. TM. Is a TM racing in MXGP this year? Of course, they have Yargo. Okay, so TM.
No, Beta. No, Yargo is Beta. Your Cass Volk is TM.
Beta, yes.
That is also
that's a red TM.
The greatest black eye on Beta that you've just mistaken them for a TM. Of all the things I've said about Beta, that's probably the most horrific they've ever heard. Well, first of all, Jeremy is fine. He's fine. Everything's great.
You said that last time.
Yep. Everything's good. Vlaanderen got third at Lierop, which is a real surprise because they have struggled with the Desmo 450 in the sand.
Yeah.
But then also you look at the times and he was 45 seconds adrift, and Vlaanderen's arguably better than that, so I don't know. It's tough. Obviously, a weaker field is... You can, again, look at that positively or negatively. Fantic have quietly been effective in pre-season. Ferrato had a podium. Van Donnick has been solid. 4th in Europe, I want to say, at least in a moto.
Bike's been proven.
Yeah, which is, I think that was a massive question mark. I'll go Ducati just because they've got Sewer, Vlaanderen and Bonacorsi who have all podiums in the 450 class, whereas Van Donnick and Ferrato haven't. So that's my pick.
Fair play. Good answers to the question.
Do you have preference?
No. I think you're right. Also, with Louis Foster's running the factory Ducati team, my only doubt over Ducati this year is, have they changed a little bit their approach to development and racing at the top level? I think you can make a lot of excuses. You can forgive a lot of missteps in 2025 because it was their debut. But this year, I think we have to expect some improvement, some development. And okay, they grabbed a couple of podiums in their first year, which, is fantastic, really, considering the bike is brand new and the factory are new to the sport. But I think we need to see a little bit more. And I think with the team that they have to hand now, the working processes that we knew, Lewis, just from talking to certain people, not just Jeremy, but also like Mattia and other people surrounding Ducati, there were some frictions there. And I want to know if they've been ironed out, and will we see that in the result sheets?
Yeah, Paolo Ciabatti admitted to me in January that a mistake they made in MXGP last year was they didn't listen to the riders and they followed the data, similar to what they would do in MotoGP, which is understandable that they would fall into that trap. Less understandable if they continue that mistake. And I agree with you. I said this in the WhatsApp LPs in a circle earlier this week when I did a one-man monologue, the greatest monologue anyone's ever heard. Ducati runs the risk of just becoming a background character, I fear. And of course, that isn't their goal. The manufacturer is so prominent. They deserve so much more. I think another subpar average year and they're quickly forgotten about and they're just a beta. Better than that.
Nah, that's too sensationalist. I mean, the number one sort-out motorcycle this year in 2026 will be the 84 HRC bike. I think everybody who goes into the paddock will want to see that. But I reckon the Ducati is still right behind that. I think people are just fascinated by this motorcycle.
Speaking of red bikes, my other B pick for surprise of the year, again, no one's mentioned him, but it's not a bad pick, Thibaut Benistant. 450 class now with Honda SR Moto Blues Motul, I think their team name still is. And equally...
Better than Hawkmo?
Yeah, Hawkmo needs a lot more play. He was incredible at the start of last year. I think I have his results here. He did go out with injury, of course, but let's not forget that he started the year with 8.8586 scores. That's incredible consistency as well. I remember his top end being around the top 5, but I don't remember him being so consistent. And Hawkmo, mainly because he's not on a factory team, has been forgotten about in this preseason shuffle.
I think, Benistant in particular hasn't really shown much in terms of attitude and professionalism to indicate that he's going to make a big dent into MXGP thus far. Things can change, of course. Some riders move at different paces throughout their careers in terms of hitting peak form and their prime. And in terms of riding ability, for sure, without a doubt, Lewis, he has to make some sort of make his presence felt, I guess. But then Jago Geerts was one of the best 250 riders of the last half decade and just couldn't do anything in MXGP. So it really depends what he can get out of that Honda, I guess. Can I also add just like another little mention to the surprise category? I think you'll see Paul's Jonass pop up on the podium at the least expected moment. We can't forget that Paul's, when he's fit, is a strong rider and a very experienced one as well. And as being Romain Febvre's teammate on the factory Kawasaki, second year in the team, as long as he can just stay away from things like upright bridges that he managed to clatter in Germany, then I think he'll be one of those riders again that you just suddenly think, oh, okay, Paul's is up there in top 4. He's pushing for maybe an overall podium.
Yeah, some bike changes that he was looking for made in the off-season, some progress. And again, in a class full of change, having a second year on a bike is a advantage that it perhaps isn't in other years. Biggest disappointment? Do you want to go first or shall I?
I can go first. I I always so harsh this. I mean, how can you put someone down as a disappointment even before the season's begun? Um, I had expectations for Jeffrey as
Oh
one of the
dear God!
disappointments.
What?
The expectations for Jeffrey as a disappointment. Like for example, you sort of, being on the verge of singing and dancing and saying, he could be a title contender. I think we have to have a bit of a realism or a reality check. So that was one thing I was thinking about. But to be honest, Lewis, I decided to make this one a non-rider nomination and say I'll be disappointed by the fact that MXGP won't really have any big changes for 2026. And it's a bit of a recurring theme on our podcast, but I want to see some new stuff. I want to see the prospect or the chance of things changing. I don't mean just like the format, but the way that maybe it's presented. I'm hoping perhaps when we check out the Argentine TV coverage, there's something else in there, or maybe that will happen when we come back to Europe. So I'd like to see MXGP sort of embracing a little bit of that move towards a shape that will appeal to more fans, I
Adam,
guess.
that's not happening.
Yes.
That's not happening. Like, it's time.
I
You need to
know. I
step
know.
away from the casket. It's time to say goodbye. I know it's hard, but you've got to move on with your life. It's over. They posted a social media video last week, which was a trailer for the season, and a lot of people, the MXGP paddock, of which I have jumped back into for this moment, we're all having a lot of fun with it because it's like a trailer for the season. So it's like a voiceover of like new bikes, new team changes, who's gonna win, and it's Coenen and then Herlings and then Gajser and then Lagenfelder and then Everts and then Febvre, and it's like, what? Why are Lagenfelder and Everts in there? Like, it's the whole video plays as an MXGP class preview, but I guess they've just decided to make it both, but the only reference to the MX2 class is just dropping Lagenfelder and Everts in there, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
And it just, in that moment, I was like, we are cooked. But this is not the podcast for that. My disappointment is...
Wait. Just to add on to that, the idea of a sport, a motorsport, especially one as time-honored and cherished as motocross, becoming sport entertainment, might make most people recoil. But I think in this day and age where people are finding sports, enjoying sports, how they're digesting it, how they're learning about it, it's just changed compared to sort of even 5 years ago. So MXGP needs to modernize and needs to update in some way, and just to find those new fans. And I'm just going to go on one tangent before you become to your disappointment, because I found out today that the MSMA have grouped together and not welcomed in Stark Future to MXGP contention for the fact that electric bikes, might not be able to cannot race against their ice. Equivalents. And yes, okay, Stark Future might not be in a position to consider a 35-minute moto yet with their technology that they currently have. I mean, we know it's better fitting to say like Super Enduro, where they're close to winning the manufacturer's title, actually, if they do well in France this weekend, as well as Supercross. But then they haven't, I just find that attitude from the other manufacturers slightly, I don't know, antiquated. Why be afraid of competition? And that's something that maybe would revive the interest in the whole series.
Breaking news, Kai de Wolf is not racing Argentina. He did indeed end up having to have surgery on his thumb.
Ooh,
torn
right.
ligaments. They say
Press release?
that Spain is still the priority, but I don't think Spain happens. Like, you're not missing Argentina and then all is fine 2 weeks later. So, no Argentina for de Wolf. No healthy thumb. And yeah, breaking news. And I wish that had come 30 minutes sooner. But never mind.
Well, Kai de Wolf is now the surprise of the season. I mean,
could be
that's
my
also
biggest
a pretty gnarly
disappointment.
injury, isn't it?
That
I
could
mean,
be my
he's not going to
biggest
be
disappointment.
riding. Oh, yeah.
But
Go on, Lewis. Sorry.
my biggest disappointment is Jeremy Sewer.
Can you really say that? That's not right. Wow.
It's Jeremy Sewer. It's Jeremy. He's fine. I'm telling you, he's fine. I don't know. He's
How can
doing
it be
interviews.
disappointing?
Huh?
How can it be disappointing?
Because he can win, Adam. He can win. He's that good a rider and he's not going to win. He's just not. He's that good, though. It's just...
It's possible he could win a moto this year.
I don't think the situation allows, at least for him, such success. I've just realised that between my picks have literally flown in the face, apart from Herlings, have flown in the face of everything I've ever wanted to believe and everything. Look, I was looking at the list, and if you're going off of expectation, I know that Jeremy can win. I know he can. I know how good that little fucker is. And he's like the finest Swiss chocolate. And I don't know. I just think
chocolate melts, Lewis.
Maybe it's too hot. Maybe the red of Ducati is too hot. I don't know. I feel uncomfortable even saying it.
No, but I don't understand. You're saying he's going to have a disappointing season because he can't win. But Jeremy entered this development contract with Ducati knowing he wasn't going to win anyway.
But
the goal is just to make a better bike and drive a nicer car.
Let me do this. No, that's not our goal. It's his goal. Our goal. Let's put it this way. I don't think there will be significant improvement from where the situation was in 2025. Sorry. I think that maybe a podium or two, but then the results will still be erratic, which isn't Jeremy. Everyone can attest to that. He's consistent as hell. 229th GP, Argentina, in a row.
Amazing.
So I think 2025 will be similar to 2026 will be similar to 2025, and there won't be a step forward. That is my...
No, it will only be disappointing if that streak goes.
And yes, look, I feel dirty. I hate myself. But you know what? We're trying to produce podcast magic here. You know what? My new biggest disappointment is me for picking that as my biggest disappointment.
Yeah. Yes. You're disappointment on so many levels.
And to put a bow on this whole podcast, I think Ben Watson sucks.
And your whole job swap with Chase Sexton is just a fraud. It's never going to happen. Is there anything else we can tuck into here?
I don't like. Honestly, I'm looking at it's hard because ultimately there are going to be disappointments that aren't justified because the field is so stacked that there are going to be riders in 11th who you're like, why is Ruben Fernandez in 11th? He sucks. And then you look at the riders in front of him and you're like, well, actually, it's not as bad as it sounds. And that is going to be a difficult challenge with the rest of the MXGP class throughout at least the start of 2026 whilst everyone is healthy. And I think the goal with Ducati would have been a significant improvement from year 1 to year 2. And I don't think you see significant improvement in Jeremy's results. And I think that's a fair take.
Yeah, but I don't think that's not really heavy disappointment. In fact, I would say your true disappointment is going to be that they're... Actually, how can I spin this? That the MXGP social media channels will have an improvement in their content and their delivery. I think that might disappoint you.
Yeah.
Or it could be the same, which would be this routine disappointment. I also think that there might be less typos in the MXGP Twitter speed, which would be another source of disappointment for you because I know how much mirth it brings you.
But I could have gone that way, but I'm trying to make this a good podcast and I've got to be true to myself, Adam. I've got to look myself in the mirror at the end of this, I can't lie to the people. Like
Well, Jeremy Sew has now just removed you from his contact book.
No, because the thing is, I think he agrees.
Oh God. This is becoming absurd.
But we're fine. I think if he'd come on this podcast, he would have picked himself as the biggest disappointment.
Right, this is going rapidly wrong.
Okay.
Who's your MX2 title pick?
Well, hold on. Before we do that, I'm going to run through some names here. Stop me if you have a comment. And
Right. Okay.
part of this exercise is I want people to understand just how stacked this is. Now, admittedly, I'm reading off the Argentina entry list, so I'm not including names like Ben Watson and Adam Sterry. By the way, In Front never reacted to our public appeal for help for Ben for Argentina, so that's a shame.
But I did get a reaction actually through LinkedIn from Tim Lightfoot at the ACU, thanking us for mentioning the ACU's. I don't know what's the initiative to try and improve the level of British motorcycle racing, which I thought was great.
I kind of roasted it though, didn't I, for their press release? Did
No,
he mention
well,
that?
no, but well, at least we highlighted the fact that it's happening.
Yeah, no one
I
else
think
did.
he was more
Yeah.
appreciative of that. Yeah,
Well.
he gave a bit more solid information as well. So this is it. The path back to British Grand Prix winning status begins.
Well, why don't I get that message? Tim, message me, Tim. Tim.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. So here are the
okay.
names. Stop me if you've got comment. Febvre, Coenen, Beniston, Vlaanderen, Vialle, Horgmo, Van Donnick, Jonass, Fernandez, De Wolf, Adamo, Oriol Oliver, Jeffrey Herlings. I don't know why I used Jeffrey's full name. Just Sewer, Gertz, Guadagnini, Bonacorsi, many Argentine riders. Gajser, Panzer, Renaux, Ferrato. I think that's like 16 riders. And then again, Sterry, Watson, once we get to Europe. Gifting's not on the entry list. Scoring points is going to be hard, is my kind of point.
I kind of like many Argentine riders. I mean, he's had a good career so far, some decent point scoring finishes. I mean, I know he's riding a TM, but he might start quite well.
Well, maybe he should take part in the ACU Academy.
You sure it was it Manny or Manny?
I think it was a double-barreled first name.
That was it.
That was the confusion.
One of the names you read, there was one that popped out, but you did it so fast that I
Probably
kind of
Oriol
forgot who it
Oliver.
was
You
now.
like him?
Bonacorsi, watch him. I think just a little bit of a rising star, perhaps. Big kid, lots of strength, athletic. I think he could be someone that produces a surprise. And also want to give a nod to Oriol Oliver. Goodness, I will be able to get his name out. Another rookie in the MXGP class, really cool riding style. He had a couple of sort of health issues towards the end of 2025 MX2. One of the authentic privateers in the squad, in the pack, I should say. So, I want to see what he does too.
I want to see Suzuki come back for 2027. And that
A bit late.
The latest rumor. Who messaged me this? Someone messaged me and said, "Hey, just a heads up, the Kimiya Suzuki rumors are running around Belgium at the moment," which was already kind of there a little bit, but I don't know. And in tradition of the MXGP podcast show, we have completely run out of time for MX2, so we are going to rush through it as quickly as we possibly can and not
I
give
actually
it...
didn't pick any for MX2.
No.
So, I'm freestyle.
I'm going to do... To be honest, that entire segment was freestyle for me. Okay, title pick.
It was hard to tell, Lewis.
Whoa. Well, so what we should... At least I can use that as a excuse. You're telling me your Jeffrey Herlings won't win on a Honda? Is premeditated?
Jeremy. Poor Jeremy.
He would pick the same.
No, he wouldn't.
Honestly, this is a
On
real
the eve
leap
of a new season, he wouldn't.
This is Adam. He's picking himself.
Is it going to be that bad that he starts to repost the huge Argentine crash that he had 4 years ago that got played over and over and over and over? Remember that one?
Yeah, he doesn't do well in Argentina. It doesn't seem to play well for him for some reason. MX2 title pick. It's easy.
Simon.
Yep, Simon.
Again. And also, I have to say, I looked at the MX2 entry list for Argentina and it did not really inspire me.
No. So, in fact, we may even have less MX2 talk this year than ever before, which is... Honestly, who knew it was possible? My MX2 pick is Simon because it will be Simon versus Sasha versus Liam for the championship. And Simon is the only rider who's been there before and done it. And I think that consistency will serve him well. And I was actually, again, surprised scraping through the results from last year. He was never outside of the top 6 at a Grand Prix. And I think that is championship winning pedigree right there. Most wins in MX2.
I think you'll probably have to go for Coenen on that one,
I was
purely
also
because of
going to go
his whole
Coenen.
shot potential.
Yep, I was also going to go Coenen, but I think that means that we both believe Sasha will have some of his trademark crashes and whatnot, because otherwise most wins would equal title, but not in this case. Fair?
Fair.
Okay, biggest surprise.
Camden McLennan, not in terms of suddenly having good results because he's had those before, but he'll have them more consistently.
I was stuck between McClellan or Fares because ultimately no one's talking about the Triumph riders at all, which again is a bit of a problem, I think, if you're Triumph and you're investing all this money and ultimately no one's talking about your factory team and the American side isn't exactly doing well. You said McClellan, so I'll go... Actually, no, I'm going to stick with my gut. I'm saying McClellan as well. I'm not playing up for the podcast. I've been truthful and I've said my piece.
Faraz needs to get fit, needs to stay fit because I think we've seen flashes, but flashes is not enough.
Was that Dark Horse or biggest surprise? Dark Horse.
That was a surprise.
Oh. Okay. Well, actually, McClellan is my Dark Horse. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Surprise.
I'm going to say Vallon for Dark Horse.
Okay. Which means I now need to do surprise. The MX2 portion of this is so on brand. My MX2 surprise, I will go with one of the Regilis brothers. Don't know which one. Probably Jonass. But I'm not picky. Whatever one will do.
Anyone will do.
Yeah, anyone will do. Honestly, I'm not that fussed. No, I think Jonass will be really good, and Carlos as well. Viva la Latvia.
Right.
Biggest disappointment.
Biggest disappointment would be that, for another year, no Japanese bike will be able to come anywhere near an Austrian one.
Well, in a similar vein, I feel as though everyone is getting far carried away with Matisse Valland hype, championship-wise.
Cool.
I have no doubt that he will win a GP, multiple this year, no doubt. But I do think the championship discussion with Valland is putting a cart in front of the horse a little bit. So for that reason, I think many people will be disappointed come the end of 2026.
Well, that's why I said surprise. In fact, I would say maybe Valerio Latta would finish higher than Valland.
Oh, wow, that would be a surprise. That's a hot take.
No. I think over the course of the season, Latta might be better. But I think Valland will, maybe surprise people with a couple of, say, 1-1 finishes or something like that.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. No, that's not fair.
No. We don't have any idea, really, do we?
No, we do, Adam. Speak for yourself.
MX2 has been amazing, last year, wasn't it? Or the year before. I mean, for a couple of years, it's been pretty good. But then I think this year might be a little bit kind of barrel scraping.
I tweeted this. 2026 MX2 is very similar to 2009 in my mind. From 2008 to 2009, the class lost Tommy, Caroli, and Rattray. And it was kind of just like you entered a new season and it was a list of names and you were like, who knows what's going to happen? And at that point, Paulin wasn't really on a radar. Musquin wasn't really on a radar. Frossard, whoever else. And those names kind of became stars in the new era of MX2. And although we've got the defending champ, I feel like we're entering a new era of MX2 for 2026.
Well, also, how do we reevaluate its position against the MX250 again? Maybe now 2026 would have been the apt year for in-front motor racing to double down on the fact that MXGP is the premier class. Again, in this informative press release, they outline there's 8 world champions in the division, 18 titles combined.
In MX2?
No, in MXGP.
Oh, I was going to say.
So I'm saying that they, maybe I'm just being influenced by MotoGP and how they really are creating that as the power category of that championship. Even though MotoGP Sports Entertainment Group have said that Moto2 and Moto3 are just as important now as they already have, as they have always been. But I think also in MXGP, like you said, with the trailer they mixed in, Lagenfelder and Everts with sort of Febvre and Herlings. I think they should draw a firmer line in the sand in terms of trying to make sort of more stars of these guys. I think you should be on a bigger bike. I mean, Kai de Wolf is a brilliant rider in MX2 and on a 250, but now is the time to really hype him up as something, like a real kind of star, international star of the sport.
Yeah, I completely agree. Make MXGP the F1 or MotoGP and leave
Yeah.
MX2 as the feeder series to MXGP, which is actually what it is.
Yes.
You're just drawing
yes.
attention to the way that the situation actually plays out.
Sorry to people that love 250s, but that's the way it should be.
Another interesting storyline in MX2 will be Cass Volk on a TM, the manufacturer that Adam loves so much.
There is a TM involved.
That
That
be
was a
interesting.
strange career move, Cass. So
Yep.
I hope it plays out for you.
And that is exactly why it'll be interesting to watch. And we didn't mention Liam Everts at all. And I think my heart wants Liam Everts to win in 2026 the title. That would be my personal pick.
Yeah.
But who knows if it will happen. Needs to stay healthy. Needs to stay
I
consistent.
think it's a big year for Liam. Big year.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, last year I think you gave him enough breathing room because of the serious accident in China at the end of 24. But if all things are okay with his fitness, then we need him to step up and produce the results.
Yes, I 100% agree. And I was just looking at the MX2 entry list, and you are right. It is a tough read. It's a tough read.
Lewis, when's going to be your first GP, do you think?
Well, this actually ties into everything quite nicely. So I was going to go to Argentina, but then job swap came up, but now job swap is postponed, so I should have gone to Argentina. I was looking at flights on Tuesday to Argentina. I was flirting with the idea of a last-minute swap. And I messaged Max Anstey, and I said, want to go to Argentina this weekend? And he replied, yeah, and then put, what's going on in Argentina? And that was the moment, because Max watches every GP, Max is into it. Like, the fact that he didn't know off the top of his head was when I was like, wow, we need some more promotion for this series, and we need some more activity around it. But
He's going to stay home and watch Formula One instead.
Big weekend. It's a big weekend. I am going to do, on press day in Indy tomorrow, I am going to run around and get every rider to give me their MXGP title picks, which may be difficult. I don't know how much Eli Tomac knows.
I think you should extend your experiment. Just randomly go up to people and say, so who do you fancy for Argentina? And see who looks at you blankly and who, has an informed opinion.
Oh, that's actually a really good idea, but it's Tomac on press, so that's like a dangerous game.
Yeah, but see how far it goes. He might look at you blankly and say Argentina.
No, I don't know if this is true or not, but the way F1 portrays itself, it seems like all of the drivers are quite good at just like, you can poke fun at them, like, the social media admins and whatever else. I would love to go around this weekend and be like, to each rider, Tomac for instance, name your KTM teammates in MXGP. And then the same for Marchbanks. Name your Kawasaki teammates, whatever else. Because I think it would be really funny, because I don't think many of them would be able to name anyone. But I don't think it would play well, and it would come across like I've set out to make them look like idiots, when I think it would just be good content. But never mind.
Yeah, it could be a bit sticky with a couple of people. But then don't underestimate how much they know.
Do you think this podcast is going to be sticky for us?
No, not at all. But I mean, some of the takes have been a little bit random, I guess.
Like what?
I don't know, but like I said to you at the top, it's just one of these shows that's quite fun, a little bit bench racy, but also ultimately ridiculous. So, let's see what's going to happen tomorrow. What's the weather going to be like, Lewis?
Well, it's Friday, so nothing's going to happen tomorrow.
In general life. What are you going to have for lunch tomorrow? Actually, I know that. It's going to be a can of Coke or Monster and a burger.
Yep. I haven't actually looked at the weather, That's a good point. Let's end the podcast with that. I'm going to have a quick look. I normally do that. I don't know why I just kind of presumed.
You mean for Argentina, not for Florida or...
Yeah, well, it's fine. I mean, there was one year that it rained briefly at Villa Angostura, and I think Cordoba last year, the run into the race had a lot of rain, but I don't really look at Argentine weather as a high-risk situation for MXGP. And it will be between 18 to 22 degrees across the weekend, cloudy with sun poking through, no threat of rain. It will be perfect for racing. yeah. Any final thoughts?
No, that's it. Looking forward to watching. I have to admit, like I kind of hinted at, MX2 will not be hard on my radar for the TV schedule. But yeah, it's good to be racing again. And as I also mentioned, a lack of pre-season coverage or excitement. Maybe there's something to do with it, Lewis. Just a lack of kind of general motocross going on internationally in the last month or two.
Yeah,
it'd be
but
nice
we
to
have to
actually have
take
a
blame.
significant event.
We have to take blame.
Do we?
I don't.
Why?
That's
You're
what.
full gas with Supercross, and there's other things going on.
That's why I've started. That's why I was doing the tweets last night that you just made fun of, because I was trying to, like, you know, get the wheels turning with people and like be like But yeah, I don't know. Congrats to Jeremy Sewer on his 229th GP in a row. Congrats to Jeffrey Herlings and Tim Gajser on their team swaps. We wish them well. Congrats to Febvre on winning in 2025 and bringing the number one plate into 2026. Congrats to In Front for holding the series once again and setting the platform for all of us to have a lot of fun. We will be back next week. Do you want to set a day now, or do you want to wait?
Whenever you want, mate. Next week is pretty easy. I'm not going to Brazil for MotoGP. So yeah, easy week. So it all depends on you. You've got a weekend off coming up.
Yep. And I've also reached out to many a rider to see if the post-race podcast from MXGP will work. Unsurprisingly, everyone said, yeah, I'll pick up the phone, because it's much easier to say that than actually action it. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have some post-race interviews from Argentina, or maybe not. Part of the excitement. But we'll be back Monday or Tuesday, most likely. Tuesday is normally when we do these shows, so we'll probably stick to that, to discuss the MXGP of Argentina. Brand new season, brand new track, brand new colours for a lot of riders. There is so much to look forward to. I can hardly wait. Watch it on MXGP TV. That is your number one spot to see all of the action, from time practice to qualifying to the motos. And that's been myself and Adam Wheeler, and we will see you next week.